Hello and welcome to That's Just Wild and another That's Just Wild Q&A. I'm Steve Backshall, and as always, I'm joined by...
Me, Lizzie Daly.
And me, Sarah Roberts.
Right, first question. Are we ready? It's for you, Steve. It's from Freddie. I notice you always say blue whale is the biggest animal ever known to have lived. Why do you phrase it that way?
So, well noticed, Freddie. I have to be careful with that language. It's a bit boring because it would be so much easier with all these things to say, it's the biggest. It's the biggest animal that's ever been. But the science doesn't back that up. So, you know, we look at, for example, the two biggest blue whales that have ever been caught were two females, both down in South Georgia. One of them was, I think, 34 meters long. The other one was 220 tons in weight. So, you know, probably the size of a passenger jet plane without its wings. And we talk about those as being the record breakers.
Yeah.
The biggest blue whales ever.
Yeah.
Statistically, the chance that they were actually the biggest blue whales that have ever lived is almost zero.
Yeah.
Because there have been millions over the years. What are the chances that two that we happen to, you know, really reliably measure and weigh were the very biggest?
Yep.
Almost none.
Yep.
To take as another example, we as human beings, an average sort of size for a person, like 5'8", 5'9", right? What do you think the tallest human being that has ever been, how high he was?
In history?
Yeah. The tallest man ever, how tall do you think he was?
Okay, 8 foot, 9 foot?
Oh, wow. I was thinking 7'2" specifically.
I'm going big. Why not?
So 7 foot and people over 7 foot are relatively common. They happen quite a lot.
NBA.
There's quite a lot of basketball players who are 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
7 foot tall.
It's ridiculous.
The record is nearly 9 feet tall.
What? Oh, is that giantism, though?
Yes,
Gigantism,
absolutely.
yeah.
Gigantism.
Yeah.
But were you to be a paleontologist and go through all of the skeletons of everyone alive on the planet today, you would not believe that people can get to be that big. There are always extremes. There are always aberrations. And all of the blue whales that have ever been, there almost certainly have been some that have been much bigger than those two huge ones that we measured. And likewise, all the other animals in the fossil record. And the fossil record is actually remarkably incomplete. You look at things like T-Rex that we consider to be one of the best known of all extinct animals. There have been fewer than 30 skeletons ever. Only a couple of them complete skeletons. The very, very biggest dinosaurs ever, things like Patagotitan, originally was only known from one long leg bone, one bone. There's another animal recently, Ichthyotitan, that's been described that it's been said could be bigger than the blue whale. That's known from a couple of jaw fragments.
And they think it was bigger or close to, or do they know?
The one that was described, I think, was supposed to be about 25 meters long.
Okay.
So huge. The fact is, we don't know about the biggest animals that are on the planet today.
Yeah.
We certainly don't know about the biggest animals in prehistory. And I would be gobsmacked if we didn't find animals over the next 10, 15, 20 years that are at least as big as blue whales, if not bigger.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And there are bound to be massive surprises out there. So that's why I'm always quite careful about my language. I always say the blue whale is the largest animal ever known to have lived on the planet. And though I have been saying that for 27 years, and there are hundreds of programs where I've said it, I personally will be quite joyful if that gets changed. Because I love the fact that we're always discovering new things.
Yeah, it's quite an
Ever the
exciting thought,
scientist.
isn't it? That we might actually find something much, much bigger. Love that.
Now, for you, Sarah, from Chloe in London, why do spiders eat their mates? Do they not love them?
Slightly less PG, isn't it, from Chloe? Okay, I absolutely love this question, and I don't think that the male spiders love it quite so much. You could argue, in a way, that it is an act of love to sacrifice yourself for the betterment of your eggs and your future offspring. So you willingly give yourself to that female spider and she may then get that nutrients. But Science may tell us otherwise. So there's multiple schools of thoughts on this. We have some new science. So there's something called an orb weaving species.
Orb-weaving spiders, love them.
Yes, orb weaving spiders, okay.
Love them.
Now, there was a study on those in which the scientists had to borrow a camera from a Beijing advertising agency because what was happened too quick for the naked eye, and they were like, I have no idea what's just happened. So there was a spider who was busy copulating with his female partner, and then suddenly it disappeared. As simple as that, just disappeared. And the reason being that they found out after borrowing a camera that was 1,500 frames per second to understand where it had gone, is that male spider used hydraulic pressure in its legs, its front legs, so that it could propel itself off the female to avoid being eaten. And it flew the equivalent of, Steve, let's just say for reference, you're 1.8 meters in size, right?
Yeah, about 6'6".
There we go. Yes. So if it was a 1.8 meter man, this would be the equivalent of him traveling 530 meters per second into the air, spinning 175 times at the same time. But it's okay because actually they secure themselves with a little piece of silk to that female so that once they've got a bit frisky and then gone, is she going to eat me? Phew, into the air, they can actually drop back down, reattach to the female, and go in again, up to 5 times.
Oh, it's a risky game,
okay,
isn't it?
It's a risky game of sexual selection, but that isn't the only tactic. So Asian hermit spiders, again, a lot of the time you have to take into account that the females often in spiders are larger than the males. So the Asian hermit spider, the female's 3 times bigger than the male. They've got a unique way of securing their safety during copulation. So they either offer an arm so they can detach a limb to stop that female getting hangry during the business and go, here you go, it gives them a bit of time to escape, or they snap off their appendage inside of her and run. I'm not kidding. And also there's studies into this. The larger the chunk of themselves that they leave inside of the female, because that continues to do the business while it's doing the business. Yep. So it keeps putting sperm into that female. The male's since hoiked off. The larger the piece, the more sperm it will inject. So, that's something the man has to take into account. How much are they investing in this? But then also it is a literal, I'm not sure if I can say this, but I am going to say it is a literal cock block because it stops any other male coming in and mating with it. Yeah. And they get really aggressive once, as you would, I'm sure rightly so. If you just snapped off your penis, you'd be quite frustrated.
Don't make so much eye contact with your partner. It's really disturbing.
And so they guard that female and what's left of their appendage aggressively to stop any other males coming in trying to remove it. So, there's lots of tactics out there. So what we can say is maybe actually it's not so much of an act of love since the males are trying so damn hard to avoid it.
I think this whole area of sexual cannibalism is utterly fascinating.
Awesome.
The spiders are not the only invertebrate group that does it. So I used to breed praying mantises.
Did you?
And yeah, it was a big hobby of mine for a long time.
Cool.
I bred about 15 different species. And you have to be really careful when you introduce a male to a female as to whether he's going to get munched or not. One of the most disturbing things that you will ever see is the act of him being consumed during copulation. Oh. And he carries on going. He is still going
committed to the cause.
Still committed to the cause while sacrificing himself. And, the idea is that it's a protein meal that is going to make it easier for the female to be able to raise her young. Mm-hmm. And they have comparatively short lifespans. It's not like he's kind of given up a life of luxury and heading off and enjoying himself for the rest of his life because he's not going to be around much longer anyway. So why not sacrifice himself to ensure that his genetic stock is continued? And yes, particularly the widow spiders, the ones that are best known for doing it, the red back and the black widow spiders. There is a kind of enchanting side story to this, which is that some spider species have evolved to kind of get around it by providing what are called nuptial gifts. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
Like an arm.
Well, it's less kind of a sacrifice than that, because, like, for example, our own nursery web spider, that's comparatively common in this country, will catch a prey item, truss it up in silk, and then kind of go into the female going, "Here you go, I've got something for you, my love."
Like your flowers, Sarah.
Yeah, exactly. I got you something lovely. You get tucked into this and please don't eat me.
Yeah.
And it seems to work quite well. He distracts
brilliant.
the female. She gets her
With some
protein meal
gifts.
and he gets to scarper off at the end of it.
Brilliant.
Do you know what I thought was
Brilliant.
like the darkest side of this study as well with the jumping spiders is scientists, to make sure that those spiders genuinely would eat the male, if not, they actually prevented 30 from being able to spring away by disrupting those front legs. All 30 got eaten.
Oh,
Yeah.
crumbs. It's
Yeah.
part of the cause, isn't it?
It's a
Right.
brutal world. Okay, so next question is for you, Lizzie. When
No,
the
wait.
jaws...
Before you start this,
Okay.
I put this in. I picked it out because you have to sing it, because that's how it's written.
Oh.
It's written how it's sung. So,
you know,
so Editor
I
Eva, I need some music on this,
adore-
please,
Oh, God.
as she sings it. Ready?
I'll do it if you don't want to. Do you want to?
Can we do it together?
Do it
Okay.
together.
Okay.
When
the jaws open wide and there's more jaws inside, that's a moray.
That's on the internet now.
That's as far as we're going with that, mate. Why do Moray eels have two crazy sets of jaws? You totally set us up there.
I love it. I love it. Okay, I wanted to pick this question because actually I was like, this is really fascinating, and how they actually feed is really cool. But also I just wanted to talk about Morays because both of you are very marine-y, spent a lot of time in the ocean, and I'm sure you've both got your Moray stories to bring to the table because I feel like everyone has. I spent a bit of time in Honduras where I actually learned how to dive, and a lot of the invasive work there is to remove the lionfish from the reefs, which are completely decimating the reefs. They're taking over as a dominant species. And the Morays have learned to find those with the small spears of the lionfish to have food, essentially, to have those prey in these tubes. And so as soon as you get in the water, we're often on an island called Roatan off of the mainland Honduras. And as soon as you have that yellow little spear out of these little reefs, you see these giant green moray eels appearing. And they come out into the water, free swimming towards you. And they're quite persistent. Have you guys had an encounter like that before with a moray? Yeah.
Steve's nodding.
Come
Go
on. Have you been
Steve.
bitten by a moray?
I
Close.
have bite tested Morays.
No way.
So
Cool.
I did a whole bunch of science using bite test gauges on various different kinds of animals to test their jaw strength.
Okay.
And we tested everything from saltwater crocodiles to Komodo dragons to spotted hyenas. The only one that decimated the gauge was the moray.
Okay,
And
interesting.
its teeth just went straight through it, punctured it out the other side. Things stopped working instantly the second the moray came up.
Okay.
What did you do to make it bite you, though? Because, I
You
mean,
don't need to do
moray-
very much.
Well,
You don't need to do much.
Some of them
Moray.
are fairly friendly, I'm led to believe. Have I been completely misled?
No, I think it totally depends on the environment and the behaviour. So back to the question, just to kind of frame it around what you're talking about. Most bony fish actually have these two sets of jaws. They have a pharyngeal jaw, and then they also have this oral jaw. Morays are the only one that have the ability to actually use this in how they feed. They're actually able to propel it forward. And they think that the Morays are able to do this because more often than not, they're found tucked away in these quite narrow spaces in these reefs where they'll spend most of their time. And so actually that ability to use suction that we see in a lot of our bony fish species that are predators, they use that suction to eat prey. They think that lack of space and ability to move wouldn't be enough to secure that prey. And so they have evolved this ability to use this second jaw, propel it forward, and then bring their prey in, which is just fascinating. But yeah, so with the bite test, did you see that second jaw being used?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how far forward was it propelled? Could you...
It didn't project beyond the end of the snout.
Yeah.
But it's just this trap of
Yeah.
needle sharp, backwards pointing teeth. You know, you would not want to be anywhere near it.
Yeah, and I highly recommend looking up pictures of of those jaws, right? And if you can see pictures of it, because it is a hot mess.
It looks like something off Alien, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure it was the inspiration of Alien at one point or another.
Sarah, you must have some experiences with morays.
I mean, again, I've been completely misled because I used to be quite nervous if I was diving, and like, especially when you do wreck diving, and often you just stumble across them, don't you? Usually in the darkest corners, especially when you're like looking for sharks, or you're looking for those nurse sharks that tuck under ledges, because a lot of that involves sticking your arm right under a ledge and chucking a torch in, and often you'll do that, and at the last second see a pair of eyes and go, oh my God, it's not a shark. Pull it back. But I don't know, I've seen those videos of people, and this is where I absolute downfall. I've seen videos of people stroking moray, so then surely they are okay. So there we go.
Love it.
Facts given by Lizzie and Steve, and now I know to avoid the pointy end again.
Right, final question to you, Steve, is do animals have culture? Do they pass down traditions and behaviours like humans do? Great question.
Great question. Possible topic for a whole other podcast at some point
100%.
because it's massive, and inevitably it's particularly massive in the most intelligent animals. It's those that have the highest encephalization quotient, that is, the processing part of their brain is most developed, are the most likely to pass on tradition, down through time and amongst their own order within their group. I have a couple of wonderful examples. We could talk about this for a very long time. Simply, yes, absolutely they do. There are lots and lots of examples of primates, particularly, having culture and passing it on. Two of my favourite examples are in cetaceans, the whale group. One of those...
It's got to be orca.
It is.
Yes.
It is the orca group that in the 1980s, one individual animal was seen wearing a salmon as a hat.
I have so many questions about this.
A dead salmon across its head as a hat.
Yeah.
And you could almost see the rest of the pod kind of looking and going, what are you doing? That looks utterly ridiculous, like it was some ludicrous fashion display on the catwalks of Milan.
Yeah.
And then they all went, do you know what? Actually, it's kind
do
of cool.
it.
And they all started doing it too. And then, just like any fashion, it kind of lost its aura.
Yeah.
And they stopped doing it and it disappeared. And then, very recently, it's come back. This element of culture has been reimagined, and another whole different population of orca have started wearing the salmon hat. And again, they all, through cultural transmission, pick up on the trend.
Yeah. Is this in the same place, same ecotype of orca, or is this
No, so this was in the Puget Sound. The original ones were the southern resident orcas.
Because that's interesting in itself. It's like across, we have culture and difference, but then you may see that transferred in other ways, almost like it's evolved in its own way. It's new traditions.
What you mean the salmon has a function instead of just a fashion piece?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't gone that far, actually. Maybe that's the next stage.
This is why you never throw things out, though. They always say it comes back round in waves.
So basically, you've still got all of your clothes.
My salmon's rotting in the back of my wardrobe, just waiting for the day when those hats come in fashion, yeah.
Milan, baby.
I have had a mullet since the 1980s because I knew it would come back, and it did.
Oh, my God.
One other beautiful element of culture I have to very quickly talk about is humpback whales and song. So there was a unique song that was first recorded off the eastern coast of Australia. And researchers who heard it went, oh, that's new. We've not heard that before. The most amazing thing about it was that it then travelled the entire width of the Pacific Ocean, and it didn't travel with the humpbacks themselves. The sound was heard by the next population of humpbacks over, and they went, oh, catchy tune, we like that. And then the next population of humpbacks started singing it too, and the next population, and the next population, until it was being sung on the coast of America. And that is cultural transmission at its best.
That's
it is
awesome.
No different to, a Selena Gomez song hitting the charts, and all of a sudden, have I just made myself sound really old?
No, the whales made an earworm.
The oldest. I'm joking. Oh, guys, thank you. Right, send in your questions, please, to questions@that'sjustwild.com. It's been incredible. We'll answer them on the show. Can't wait for next week.
See you next
Let's go
week.
again.